I don't see a reason to play favorites among animals. Some people think it's okay to rear cattle and poultry and things in horrible circumstances to eat, but it's totally bad if a hunter goes out and shoots something from the wild to eat. Actually, I know this isn't going to set well with everybody, but I would rather, in many cases, see us harvesting wild animals, and it would be more compatible with a healthy environment than cutting down all the trees in a rainforest so that we can run cattle.
Listen, I agree with you. I'm on your side with that. But there's not enough wild animals for everybody.
Well, they're not, but there is something to be said for the hunting side. Hunters get abused a lot by conservationists that become too emotionally involved with their animals. People often ask me, you must really love bats. No, I don't really love bats. I'm a scientist who's very fascinated by them, and I'm impressed with how valuable they are, how much we need them. But when I go out to do conservation, I'm looking out for both bats and people. And I think that's the only way we can really be successful. When we get too emotional about animals and we think they have rights that we need to look out for over human needs, then we start getting into trouble. I, for example, years ago, led the way in getting a national park created in American Samoa. And how it's all started was there were commercial hunters that were devastating flying foxes. They were shooting them and selling them to Guam for a delicacy. And in a very short time, they had wiped out most of the flying foxes from the whole area. And I was asked by a then Harvard botanist graduate student who was finishing up his PhD if I would come and do something to help save the bats. So I got together a couple donors and him, and we went out to American Samoa. And the first thing I did, the first day, my collaborators were all worn out from an overnight flight, so they slept in. Well, while they were sleeping in, I went out and made friends with the commercial hunters. And I just came across as, another guy that was perfectly happy with hunting. And in fact, I'm sure as a population ecologist that we need hunters. We've wiped out most of the dominant predators of the world, and if somebody doesn't act as the dominant predators, we're going to have trouble. But I went out and I made friends with the hunters, and they actually invited me to go out on a hunt with them that night. Well, I didn't shoot any of the bats, but they only shot 2 in the whole evening, and they were saying, "Oh, you should have been here last year. We could have shot 100 in an hour." And I just asked innocent questions, not too many of them at once. Well, what do you think caused all this? And they readily admitted that they shot too many. And so, eventually I'd ask, well, what are you going to do? Your grandchildren are not going to be able to hunt bats anymore because you hunt them all out. And after just a few nights, now when my colleagues found out what I'd been doing, oh my God, if I'd been fireable, I would have been fired. They were very upset that I had consorted with the enemy. But in the end, these commercial hunters recognized they had a problem, and they actually, when I told them that in a few days I was going to be meeting with Governor Tuttle, they were thrilled when I offered to intercede with the governor on behalf of getting game laws to make sure there were flying foxes in the future. We joined forces that way, and as they learned more about the flying foxes and what they did, they not only got game laws passed in record time, but they self-imposed on themselves. Well, actually, they completely outlawed commercial hunting. The commercial hunters did. And then they themselves declared a 5-year moratorium on all flying fox hunting so that they could recover. And when I asked about it of a Samoan biologist 25 years later, he said they still weren't hunting flying foxes, and the flying foxes had recovered. I think there is some hunting now, but the point is, if we had just gone barreling in there that we hated these guys because they did something that we didn't like and they'd almost caused the extinction of a bat, we would have gotten nowhere. And if we'd have insisted that they quit all hunting immediately, we'd have gotten nowhere. But by being willing to compromise and see both sides early on, we gained a whole national park in addition to solving our original problem, and showed the value of making friends instead of winning battles.
The value of diplomacy. So what did they hunt instead of the flying foxes? What did they transition over to? They're commercial hunters.
Oh, they quit commercial hunting.
Oh, wow.